So I was reading this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I read it before. I was just kind of flipping back to the pages. Something reminded me of the book, and I went to this one chapter where it was basically explaining that the best way to win an argument is to avoid the argument at all, to never get in an argument in the first place. Because even if you win an argument, you just make the other person feel bad and you lose their goodwill because you prove them wrong and you're making them look dumb and they just don't like you because of that. So I was wondering, like, okay, this sounds like a good principle to use, but what about being disagreeable? I say this because being disagreeable is like the studies show or something that being disagreeable leads to more success and more like achievement. I'd assume that's like because you disagree with like status quo, you don't just agree with everything someone says and you actually follow your own path and you make something work. Like I think it's reasonable to say that being more disagreeable is correlated with more achievement and success. So I was kind of wondering, like, okay, well, being disagreeable would probably lead to more arguments too, right? Because if someone is like trying to tell you some idea, like, oh, college is good, and you're like, actually, no, I don't think it is. Wouldn't that kind of be arguing? If you know what I mean, like you might get into an argument because of that. So I was wondering, and then I get to reading. I'm reading and I'm reading this book, and I come to like the middle point of the chapter, and there's this one quote from Abraham Lincoln, which basically says that no, he was like talking to some young soldier that he was in charge of or something like that, and he said that anyone, like roughly paraphrased, he said that anyone who's focused on like becoming the best version of themselves won't waste time on like personal contention, like personal battles, like arguments, right? And I started thinking, I was like, okay, that quote's kind of perfect. This Lincoln guy's a genius because you can still apply this principle of not getting into arguments while being disagreeable. Like that sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. Actually, I don't even need to say that part. Like I'm practicing talking here. Just don't even add that part next time. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so you can be disagreeable and not and get into arguments at the same time. How do you do this? Let's say someone walks up to you, they're like, college is I think college should be necessary for every single person in this world. And you in your mind think like, nah, college is shit. That's what I think. I think college is shit, at least for my path. I'm not trying to be a doctor, lawyer, or like engineer. Even then I would say college is shit because it's just extra steps. You need I know I'm side tangent tangenting. I know I am. I'm doing it on purpose. Any of those goals, people are like, okay, if you're a doctor, lawyer, or engineer, you should go to college. I still think you shouldn't because if you really wanted to be an engineer, or a doctor, etc., and you're like an ambitious person, you can make that work and you can make it work quicker and not have to go to college. Right? You can learn this stuff online. You can find a mentor. You can learn from them. You can learn to text. You can learn on your own quicker than you can learn in school because school is like extra steps. Oh, here, take this art class because you need art. Like, no, it's just extra steps. You can find a way, forge a path. And some people might be like, oh, if you don't have an MD, but like, I promise you this, if you're seriously that good at being a doctor and everything like that, and you can build a reputation, you don't need to go to college, dude. It's just extra steps. Like, I promise you, you can, if you're that good, they're not gonna just deny you. But I guess that's for like ambitious people, not just anyone, right? Like just anyone doesn't really care that much. They just want to go get it done. So, and like just jerk off and like play video games. Like, so I guess in that sense, sure, go to college, I guess. But that's like limp dicking the world. I don't know. The point, right, after this side tangent, the point is that if you disagree with someone, I kind of counterintuitive right now. I'm being a hypocrite because I just disagreed and probably started an argument with someone who's watching this, but no one's watching this. But hypothetically, if I was talking to someone and I said that to them, that would probably start an argument. So don't do what I just did, right? The whole point is actually the opposite of what I just did, which is so funny. Look at this vein on my head. Uh, being buzzed is insane. The point of this was the point was recenter. The point is that you can still be disagreeable. Holy shit. I'm so not to the point. Holy shit. Okay, this is a learning lesson. You cannot get in arguments and be disagreeable because someone can come up to you, say college is really good, and you in your mind can say college is bad. You can say all the disagreements in your head, and you can just know that you have a different opinion, and you don't have to be like, you can be like, oh yeah, I think college might be beneficial. The college is definitely beneficial for some people. Like you could say that and like you mean it, you're not lying. Like I would say like, yeah, for people who aren't like super ambitious, like yeah, college is the way. It's like a slow steady path, like that works. So it's like that. You disagree in your head, not even disagree in your head like actively, just know that you have a different opinion, but you can agree with them, like agree by like saying a point that you actually agree with, like I just did, like, oh, it can be beneficial for some people, yeah, for sure. And in that way you can still be disagreeable in your head while not like destroying goodwill with people, right? Like there's times where you have to be like intelligent with this, right? Because sometimes the person you're talking to actually wants to hear your opinion, and like they just want to hear your opinion, and if they think you're right they'll change their mind, but 90% of the time the person doesn't care about your opinion. They're not in the business of changing their mind. That's not the type of person they are. That's not the occasion that they've come to you for. That's not why they're talking to you. They're talking to you for either feeling of importance, or just to talk to you, and they don't want to be proven wrong all of a sudden, right? So you proving them wrong is not going to do anything, right? It would if they're that type of person. Like if you proved me wrong or something, like I'd actually be kind of, I might be a little upset sometimes, but if I'm mindful, I'd be like kind of happy, right? I'd be like, okay, you know what, you're right. Like I would take that. I see myself as the type of person who would take that, but most people don't care for that, right? They just want to be right, or they just want to feel good, etc. Like they're not interested in you just flaming them, and that's when you would just not start an argument. Like I, to put this into example and like story, because I can say all this bullshit, it doesn't matter. My dad, me and my dad have like a good, I'd say a good relationship, but but we have a good relationship, and there's this one thing that it's kind of a me problem, because my dad, like, let me put this into perspective, right? I'm 18 and I have a driver's license, but my dad doesn't let me drive on my own. So in my mind, I can like disagree and get like all angry and stuff, and explain to him why like it's stupid and he should let me drive, which I've done many times. Or I could like disagree in my head, know that like, okay, I should definitely be able to drive right now, but trying to argue with him is not going to do anything. It just leaves a negative like tint on both of us, when instead, which is like the action I'm pushing towards now, is to just become so competent that he's like, okay, yeah, I trust you with driving. Like that's the better path. That's the path that's gonna convince him to just be that competent. And to be fair, like I what like sometimes like we're driving back from this like plant store, and there's this green light, but it says yield on left turn green. And I'm like confused because I've never seen that before. So I like go to like take the left turn like slowly, and there's a guy coming like straight ahead, but he's like going really slow. So I was like, okay, he's not moving. I could just take the turn. My dad started yelling at me. He was like, dude, have you not seen a left turn green yield before? I was like, no, I haven't. So that's like this was only like a month ago. So that's a display of incompetency, where if I like flawlessly just sigma mailed it, how do we like use that word? If I confidently just made the right move without like worrying about it, then he would like obviously trust me more. You know what I mean? So just become so competent, whatever. That's the point. This took way longer than it probably should have, but this is a volume game. This whole channel is just a volume game. I'm just talking to you, talking to you. I say to you, but no one's watching this. Let's be real. I'm talking to myself, and I'm improving my skills at explaining things and talking. And okay, it's kind of fun. I like doing it, and it gets my ideas down on like this whole library, my YouTube library, and it's pretty nice, honestly. I actually like it. I think I'm improving and getting more experience just talking, because communication is such a powerful skill, right? If you can, Andrew Tate said this one thing where the entire world is just people running around and talking in different rooms. And I completely agree with that. If you think about that, it's kind of all life is, right? 90% of it is just people running around into different rooms, whether it's outdoors or like a mosque or a church or a room or a school or a university or a workplace. We're just walking into different rooms and saying stuff, right? That defines like a big portion of like what we do. So if you can't even communicate properly and effectively to like the maximal degree better than anyone else, then like what are you doing? Well, if you can't even communicate properly, what are you doing? And if you can communicate exceptionally, that just automatically puts you at the top. It's insane. And I love communicating well. When I communicate well, it's like like orgasmic. You know what I mean?